Good day, everyone. This is teacher AJ Aliado. I'm a senior high school teacher. And for our practical research 2, we will have our introduction to quantitative research. Let's start with the quote from Zora Hurston. Research is a formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with purpose. So what is a research? The purpose of any scientific inquiry is to add a body of knowledge that helps explain, predict, or control events of interest in the domain. So remember that any research purpose is to help you know something or predict something or use the information that is provided through that research to control events or to predict what might happen in the same situation. We can also define quantitative research as the quantitative approach designs and examines social phenomena through quantifiable evidence and often relies on statistical analysis of many causes to create valid and reliable general claims. Most of the quantitative research examines now or study social phenomena, especially for our practical research too. We will be focusing more on social phenomena through quantifiable evidence or those we can count. Those could be represented by numbers. And we often use now statistical analysis or statistical data through these numbers. We process them through statistics. You had your statistics and probability for the past SEMs, I hope so. And causes now, or after processing this data, we can now have a reliable general claim. The overall goal of quantitative research is to convey numerically what is being seen in the research and to arrive at specific and observable condition. So again, the quantitative research, we use numbers, okay? We depict our results through numbers. So let's start with the characteristics of quantitative research. One, the data are usually gathered using more structured instrument. Marami po sa ating, or rather in our quantitative research, gumagamit tayo ng data gathering instruments such as your questionnaire, interviews, but we use now our structured instrument. Meron tayong pre-approved questionnaires or questions answering now our research questions. The results are based on larger sample sizes that are representative of the population. We use now we want to study the population or kung ano ang tibok ng puso ng ating population, but we cannot study everyone under our population, especially kung napakalaki or napaka-wide ng iyong mga ng population, napakadami. So we use now representative or we get sample sizes. And remember, the bigger sample size ay mas maganda or mas ma-generalize ang sagot. For 100 people, for example, merong 100 tao na pasok sa yung characteristics, yung ginahanap mo mga respondents. And we cannot study all 100. So we use now a sample size. Ano po, gumagamit tayo ng sample size depending now on availability at saka sa iyong gagamiting sample size computation. Now, pag mas madami kang inaral or ginamit na your respondents, you can have now a more generalizable result. Next characteristic, we do have the research study can usually be replicated or repeated given its high reliability. If your research study is very reliable ang iyong study na ginawa, it should be or it could be replicated or repeated, pwedeng ulitin ng ibang researchers, or pwede mo rin ulitin for the same type but different na po ang iyong mga respondents, and it should rather provide a more the same results, maybe not the same numbers, but the conclusion or the generalized idea or conclusion rather ay mas magagamit or pwedeng maulit or the same results from your or previous study. Next, we do have that the fourth characteristic is the researcher has a clearly defined research question to which objective answers are sought. Remember that your study relies or the backbone of your study is or will be your research question. Ito po ang magsisilbing guide kung ano ang magiging laman ng iyong um, literature, your questionnaire, the flow of your chapter 3 or your methodology, kung paano mo ito gagather. Siyempre, depende now on the things you want to know. The research questions are yung mga bagay na gusto mong malaman. And it will define now kung ano ang gusto mong maaral and how your study will go about. Next, number 5. All aspects of the study are carefully designed before the data are collected. Ang research study po, hanggat maaari, okay, ay gumagamit tayo ng na-design, maayos na design. Before we collect our data, hindi ka pwedeng sumabak na magkalap ng data nang hindi ka magkakaroon ng approved design because of some things or because pag nagkaroon po ng problema sa design, for example, you are gathering data at hindi po swak yung design mo pala for such question, okay, ay magbabago at magbabago ang iyong study. And you need to repeat that because magkakaroon ka po ng problema on the data gathering. Next characteristic is that data are in the form of numbers and statistics. Okay, linya po ito as numero or nakalabas po ito as numbers, and it will be processed through statistics. Number 7 is project rather can be used generalized concepts more widely predict future results or investigate causal relationship. Your project or your research project should be generalized or pwede mo po siyang mai-apply sa mas wide na population, nakapareho naman ng iyong respondents. For example, ang respondents mo ay sa iyong area, sa inyong barangay, sa kapit-barangay, it should also be applicable. Okay? Or sometimes, when your study ay, for example, your study for this school year is new normal. For next year, hopefully not, we are still under new normal education, dapat the same pa rin or at least almost the same general conclusion for your research. Okay? So now, in our research study, we do have the variables. So ano nga ba ang variables? A variable is something that can take on different values of different subjects in a given research. Ang labo naman, 'di ba? But when we say variables, ito po yung mga bagay-bagay na nakakaapekto or naaapektuhan within your study. We have 3 types, rather, according to values, according to scale of measurement, and according to relationship. Later on, we will be studying them one by one. The variables according to values. The first one is the categorical variable or the qualitative variable. These are variables whose data are non-numeric and whose observation vary in kind but not in degree. For example, your sex, male or female, religion, Roman Catholic, Iglesia ni Cristo, and others. You have your civil status, you're single, married, widowed, and Those are now the examples of categorical variables. Walang mas mataas, walang numeric or walang numbers that could represent these categories, but these are now categories ng different topics or different variables natin. Okay? The quantitative variable or continuous variable. These variables whose data are counts or numerical measurements and whose observations vary in magnitude. Ito naman po yung mga variables na pwede nating represent through numbers. We have your age, income, number of children, height, and weight. Now, we do have types of the quantitative or the continuous variable or the quantitative variable. We have your discrete variables and continuous variables. When we say discrete variables, the it is the variable whose observation can assume only a countable number and values cannot take the decimal form. Wala pong kalahati nito. Okay? Wala pong 1/4, walang 1/3. For example, the number of children in the family, di ba? The number of students in the class. Wala namang klase na 39.5. Okay? Maliban lang kung lulubog lilitaw. The number of houses in the city, di ba? Wala namang kalahating bahay. Even it's just a small room, basta it's considered as a house, it is po a house. Counted siya as a house. Okay? Hindi mo pwedeng bilangin yung napakalaking bahay as 3 or 4 houses because counted po siya as a house, okay? Next, you do have your continuous variables. The quantitative variables whose observation can assume any one of the countless numbers of values in a line interval. Ibig sabihin po, ito po yung mga may decimal, may kalahati. For example, now you have your height, mayroon tayong 5 feet, may ibang mayroong mga 5.5 feet, we have your 4.6 inches, yan. The height, we have yours, the weight rather, we have your 68 kilograms, 68.5, yan. And the time, meron tayong half hour, we have 1 minute and 30 seconds. So, pwede po natin siyang, or 1 minute and 1 minute 0.5, 1.5 minutes, o 46.5 minutes, yan po ang ating mga continuous numbers. Next, we do have the variables according to scale of measurement. We have your first one is your nominal variable. The nominal variable whose data are non-numeric labels that do not reflect quantitative information. Walang mas mataas, walang mas mas madami sa kanila. For example, your sex. That's your male and female. Okay? Pwede na male and female, but hindi pwede mo siyang baliktarin kung gusto mong unahin ang female, it's okay. Wala pong magbabago sa iyong study. And your single, married, widowed, yan, would be your civil status na magkakaroon po ng ating ano ba to, representative, like 1, 2, 3, pero pwede mo pong baliktarin, like widowed could be number 1, married could be number 3, single could be number 2. Pwede mo pong balik-baliktarin regardless now of kung anong gusto mong unahin. Okay? Next, we do have the ordinal variable or variable that is meaningful order or categories, but there is no measurable distance between categories. An ordinal variable is nominal variable, but its different states are ordered in a meaningful sequence. Ordinal data has order, but the intervals between scale points may be uneven. Because of lack of equal distances, arithmetic operations are impossible, but logical operations can be performed on the ordinal data. A typical example of ordinal data is socioeconomic status of family. Let's have a few examples. We have here your competition placement. Pwede mong ilagay dyan si champion, first place, first runner-up, second runner-up, and third runner-up. Okay? Of course, dapat mong ilagay si champion sa number 1. Si first runner-up sa 2, 3, second runner-up, and 4, si third runner-up. But, it does not necessarily mean na si champion ay pwedeng ang difference ni champion at ni first runner-up could be 10 points. But in first runner-up at second runner-up, pwedeng ang difference lang nila ay 2 points. At si second runner-up at third runner-up, pwedeng difference nila ay 8 points. Okay? So, pwedeng magkakaiba ang kanilang mga difference, but nakategorize po siya as champion, first runner-up, second runner-up, and third runner-up. Okay? Now, we have your level of satisfaction. You're very satisfied, satisfied, unsatisfied, and very unsatisfied. Ito pong level of satisfaction ay ordinal data or ordinal variable because kinakategorize mo lang siya into very satisfied to these categories, pero dapat mauna pa rin si very satisfied or at least si very unsatisfied ang nasa 1. Papunta sa 4 si very satisfied. Okay, pwede mo siyang baliktarin pero ganito pa rin ang arrangement. The next one is our variables according to skill measurement, the interval variable. Variable whose data values or numerical are ranged in a real interval and can be as large as from negative infinity to positive infinity. And a good example for this is the temperature. So we do have 60 degrees Celsius, you have your 40 degrees Celsius, your 20 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius, and negative 20 degrees Celsius. If you would notice, there is an interval of 20 degrees Celsius per item, but hindi po tayo nagtatapos sa 0 degrees Celsius. We do have a negative degree Celsius po. Meron tayong negative 20 degrees Celsius dyan, and it does not mean 0 or 0 talaga ang heat na available. Okay? So, if you would notice here na dito po ay meron lang tayong 20 degrees or 20 na difference for each options. Next, we have your ratio variable. The highest level of measurement that has all the characteristics of the interval plus a true 0 point. It has the same properties as the interval level. The order and difference can be described. Additionally, it has a true 0 and the ratio between 2 points has a meaning. Okay, so for example, this is 80, you're 40, 10 kilograms, and 0 kilograms. Okay, at mapapansin ninyo, wala namang negative na kilograms. That's why 0 is 0 na talaga. Wala nang mas mababa 0 kilograms natin. Okay. So to summarize the measurement scale, we have your lahat po ay could be named or categorized. For the nominal, there's no order, there's no difference between, and there's no true 0. For ordinal, it has a name or can be categorized. It does have an order, pero no difference and no true 0. We have your interval, lagyan natin ng X dito, nakalimutan natin. We have your interval, you have your name, or categories for interval. It has an order, there's a difference but no true 0. And for ratio, it has a name, it has an order, there's a difference, and there is a true 0. Next, we have the variable according to relationship. We have the independent and dependent variable. When we talk about independent variable, it is the manipulated variable that causes change in another variable. Okay? And the dependent variable are those that are affected by the independent variable. For example, pag tinaasan mo sa independent variable mo, anong magiging result nito sa dependent variable mo? Pwedeng umakyat din ang ating dependent variable, ang results, pero pwede ring bumaba. Okay? Basta maapektuhan ng independent variable si dependent variable. Siya ang dahilan kung bakit magkakaroon ng pagbabago. And our intervening variable, these are called the test or control variables that either increase or decrease the effect of the IV or the independent variable to the dependent variable. For example, pwede mo itong i-increase or i-maintain. Pwede mo siyang i-maintain. It does not affect how the growth or the change will be, or pwede mo siyang i-increase or i-decrease, but it will not affect now yung ating um, results. Okay? And that is the end of our introduction to quantitative research. I hope you learned something. If you have some questions, just comment down below. I'm sorry for the errors of the video. Again, this is teacher AJ. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy learning. Bye bye.